Looking to be a drum major? I have some advice and tips for you in when starting your journey into drum majoring, but not before we meet our next guest. From Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, we are live. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to show number 7 of Live at PBL-TV. I'm Rene Gauthier. So, the past weekend in Ontario, in my neck of the woods here, well, it gave us some great weather, previewing a great summer for all of us here in Ontario. My band took the opportunity to have a practice outdoors while we could. And I'm sure there are plenty of other bands out there that took advantage of such a wonderful opportunity. It gets us all ready for the coming season, which is only less than 2 months away here. But the one thing that never stops coming, well, is the latest information. And so here is the latest news. There are 8 bands locked in for the American Pipe Band Championships in Norfolk, Virginia, 4 grade 2 bands and 4 grade 3 bands. Among these bands is the Ottawa Police Service in the grade 2 level. This is to coincide with the Virginia International Tattoo, which will have the Royal Air Force and Scotch College of Perth, Western Australia. Ever wanted to see if you had what it takes to be a piper or drummer? Ever wanted to stop living the pipe band life vicariously and get involved? Well, if you ever come into Ontario over the summer, you could give it a try. The PBBSO will be hosting come and try events throughout Ontario, especially in Maxville, home of the North American Pipe Band Championships. The RSPBA has announced that they will allow for an easement in the number of band members competing in the championship stages in the UK. The grade 2 and 3 levels will now allow a minimum of 6 pipers, 2 snare drummers, and a bass drummer. This is to address the struggles that bands are having in recruiting people at a certain level playing their bands. It was announced earlier this month that the man who built the city of Toronto pipe band, Chris Anderson, passed away at the age of 94. He made history when he led the grade 1 City of Toronto pipe band, also known as Cabernet, to be the first band off the British Isles to receive a prize in the Worlds when it was hosted in Inverness in 1966. He founded the City of Toronto after leading the St. Catharines Pipe Band, which would eventually become Clan McFarlane up to grade 1. He came to the Niagara region in Ontario after moving from Nova Scotia, where he originally immigrated from his native home in Scotland. Even though he retired from piping and didn't even feel the need to become a judge, this legendary piper opened the door to make Ontario one of the best training grounds in the world for pipers and drummers alike, and would eventually be part of the foundation that made the 78th Fraser Highlanders of Campbellville, Ontario, Canada, the first band off the Isles to win the Worlds. Chris Anderson passed away at 94. My next guest is a legendary piper in his own right. He was the former pipe major of the Guelph Pipe Band. He played with the powerhouse 78th Fraser Highlanders. He is a past recipient of gold medals in Oban and Inverness. He is currently the director of piping and drumming instruction at St. Andrew's College in Aurora, Ontario. He's none other than Jim McGillivray.
Hi, Renee.
Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you.
So, as I normally talk with people, I like to go to the beginning. So, what made you want to get into piping?
Well, it was kind of an odd thing. I grew up in Kitchener, Ontario, which was and still is quite a German town. There weren't many McGillivrays in the phone book in Kitchener, and I think the only one there was a relative. My dad liked the pipes. We used to go to the Fergus Highland games. And my dad kept some pipe band albums around the house. They weren't very good, but they were at least something. One day there came a knock at the door. I was about 10 years old, and it was a gentleman selling accordions. And what he would do would sell a package with the accordion and lessons. And I loved it. I said, yeah, I want to learn how to play the accordion. And I sat and I tried it out and all that. Well, my parents had no interest in me learning the accordion, but that kind of kindled my interest in learning some kind of an instrument. And I guess those pipe band albums my dad had their effect, because I for some reason I decided it would be the pipes. And at age 10, for a while, I was walking around in the basement listening to the pipe band albums with a pillow under my arm and a stick in my hands, pretending I was playing the bagpipes. And eventually we made it happen.
Really? So what band did you initially start with?
I started in 1967 with the Legion band in Kitchener called Kitchener Legion Branch 50. It was run by a Glasgow man named Colin Miller. Colin was really great with the kids, and we had a lot of kids. We competed in grade 3 in Ontario. I was with that band for 4 years maybe. That was my beginning band. We won Champion Supreme in Ontario in grade 3 a couple of times.
Okay.
That was my foundation in pipe bands.
Really? So at what point did you decide that you wanted to play with Guelph then?
Well, the Legion band, there came to be some infighting, and I was young and not really privy to know what it was all about, but it often happens in Legions. There was a big falling out, and they fired the pipe major, and the rest of us all quit. So my mother had gone to school in Stratford, Ontario, which was where Ed and Jeff Nye were from.
Oh,
and
okay.
my mother had been taught by Ed's father, and we were somewhere where the Guelph Pipe Band was playing, and my mom just brazenly walked up to Ed and I and said, "I'd like my son to play in your band." And Ed said, "Well, bring him out and we'll have a tryout." So I went out, I had a tryout, and next thing I knew, I was with a grade 2 band, Guelph Pipe Band.
So it was a grade 2 band at that time, correct?
Yes. Yeah. We were grade 2 for about, I think the first 2 years I was there, we were in grade 2, and then we were upgraded to grade 1.
What does it take to become a grade 1 band from a grade 2? There's got to be a lot that goes into that.
Oh God, yeah. I could probably talk all night about it and not capture it all. I think you have to, first of all, you have to have the horses. You have to have some at least in this day and age, you have to have some pretty decent players. Back in those days, we were in Guelph. We were just far enough from Toronto that we weren't really getting the Toronto players. So we had to make our own players. We didn't have the greatest players in the world, but Ed and I was a phenomenal teacher. We were a teaching band, and he was very attentive to the details. He asked all our pipers to play in solo competitions. He would teach them all privately. So that sort of a commitment from Ed was the first thing that was required. And the next thing was for all of us to buy into it. And Ed had a gift of the gab, and he could back it up. So he had us buying into it. And once everyone was committed, then we had to achieve something that none of us had experienced. None of us in the band, except for Ed, had ever played in a band at a grade 1 level. So every practice was a new learning experience, and every practice you were pushing yourself a little bit harder to get there. So certainly it's a combination of leadership, I would say leadership and passion.
Talk about standing on the shoulder of giants. I mean, Ed Nye is a legend in Guelph as well. I mean, and obviously he's a legend all over Ontario, but definitely, I mean, well, his influence is so strong that they actually have a fund in his name.
Yeah. Ed was a huge influence on me. I mean, I owe whatever piper I have been. I owe most of it to Ed. Ed took me under my wing. And not only did he teach me, but he exposed me to the Scottish pipers. And in those days there was, I think there might have been two piping broadcasts a week in Scotland. And Ed's wife was a Scottish lady, a Glasgow woman, and her parents would record the BBC piping programs and send them over to Ed on cassette tape. And Ed would pick me up to go to band practice, and we would listen to those tapes. All the time Ed and I spent in the car was always talking about piping or listening to piping. He was just a phenomenal influence, and his influence on me was great. And he had a tremendous influence on people all over North America. People all over North America still talk about Ed.
It sounds to me like you had a very significant friendship with Ed.
Yeah, absolutely. He was the best man at my wedding.
Wow. Wow, legend himself. So you spent about 10 years with Guelph, correct?
Yeah.
And then at what point did you decide to hook up with the 78 Frasers?
I left the Guelph Pipe Band in 1981. And at that point, I decided I was going to start to make the trips to Scotland to compete for the gold medals at the Argyllshire Gathering and the Northern Meeting. So I didn't play with the band. And then around the end of the 80s, I was thinking, man, it'd be nice to get in the band again, I think. And the Frasers had just won the World Championship. And a lot of guys in the band were my friends. I loved the music. I loved the music they played. And I thought, I need to be in a pipe band again. So I joined the Frasers in 1988, and I was with them until 1993, as I recall.
Okay, so you spent about 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
And then you eventually went out on your own? Is that how?
Yeah, I when my daughter was born, I left the Frasers. That would be 1993, and then I didn't play in another pipe band again until 2008 when I played with the Spirit of Scotland at the World Championships. And that was an experience as well. So yeah, I had quite a long period in there where I was not involved in a band. My piping life, my business, my work here teaching piping at St. Andrews College was all keeping me busy enough that I just couldn't see a pipe band fitting in. Now I'm semi-retired, and we have started a grade 2 band here at St. Andrews College called the St. Andrews College Association Pipe Band. Right. And we began the band the year the pandemic started. So we had the band for 2 years before we actually got a chance to compete, which we did last summer. So this coming season will be our second season, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I have heard St. Andrews College play. They're very good.
Thank you.
They're very good. I mean, I heard them when they were in the grade 3 level, and they ran roughshod over everyone else. So I mean, it's nice to see that they're coming up to grade 2 now to give Peel a run for their money.
Well, we'll try. We were never a grade 3 band. We were a brand new band in 2020.
Okay.
So you must have been thinking about some other grade 3 band.
Maybe another St. Andrews College that we don't know about.
Yeah. There's a couple.
There's
You know what?
there's
There's a
St.
couple.
Andrews colleges everywhere.
There's St. Andrews. There's a couple in the U.S. There's one in New Zealand. They're all over the place.
Definitely.
Andrew was a popular saint.
So tell me a little bit about the clasp.
The clasp. The two most significant piping competitions are the Argyllshire Gathering at Oban,
Right.
and the Northern Meeting at Inverness.
Right.
You can compete there for some prize medals that are presented by I'm not sure if it's still the Highland Society of London or the Pembroke Society, but it's a great achievement to win the gold medal at Oban or Inverness, and that's for Pembroke. Once you win the gold medal at Oban or Inverness, you can't compete for it again. You're moved up into a former winners competition,
Right.
and at Inverness, that former winners competition is called the Clasp.
Okay.
And
That's the Competition League of Amateur Solo Pipers.
Oh, you're thinking about that Clasp? No, the
no.
Clasp. I'm not too familiar with that. That's a coming out of the National Piping Center.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's what will I call it? I'm going to call it a competition league. I think it's mostly adults playing in it. I've judged a couple of them actually, and yeah,
yes,
mostly adults. So that's very different from the first Clasp that I was describing, and it's easy to get the two confused.
Yeah, bad Google. Okay, so let's get back to the real Clasp, the one that you won.
Yes, that's at Inverness. That's the former winners of gold medal, former winners contest for gold medalists. Yes, that was probably my biggest piping thrill. I'm not sure there's a piping prize. There's no official world championship of piping, but there are a couple of prizes that are considered at the pinnacle, and that's one of them. So I played a big tune. I was happy with the tune I played, and I played it well, and I was lucky enough a lot of things have to go well for you to get a big prize. You can play very, very well many times and not get the big prize, and then one day the stars all align and you happen to play well, and you get it. So
yeah,
I performed on the day, but I count my lucky stars.
Wow, it must have been a real thrill for you to win. I mean, you're out there in Scotland, Canadian guy. People tend to underestimate those who are not from the Isles.
Well, they've got a lot of respect for Canadian players in particular, and there's been lots of gold medalists come from North America now, sir. So they're more than acquainted with us.
Mm-hmm. Well, now that there are more and more coming out there, more and more talented Canadian pipers out there that are just showing their stuff. I mean, we've had world championship bands from. Well, we've had a world championship band from Ontario, 78th Fraser Highlanders. And then we've got the top flights from SFU. I mean, these bands are great. They even have a legacy and a system that makes them flourish.
Yeah. I know the SFU organization is a remarkable organization to have accomplished what it has accomplished over how many years now? 35 years.
Yeah.
They've set a standard, and they're quite an organization. The Frasers were a different kind of organization that was really rode on the strength of Bill Livingston's personality and his ability to draw players and his ability to create big music and get a pipe band playing
Another
together.
Legend.
Yeah. So they're two different organizations, but both have done a lot for Canadian piping.
Mm-hmm. So, what was your experience in Scotland like?
Which time?
Well, let's talk about the first time, because I mean, you start. It's always your first time that you're looking at everything around you. It's just that profound, to the point which I guess every time you go out there, you see something new.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think I've kind of roughly figured out one day I've made 60 or 65 trips to Scotland. So it's, I've seen, I've seen a lot of it. My first trip, I was 19 years old, and I was with Ed, and I was basically doing what I was told, which seemed wise at the time, and in fact was. Everyone I met was great. I met stewards at the games who sort of took me under their wing and made sure I knew where I was going and what I was doing. I've always been treated very well over there, whether I've been playing or whether I've been judging or doing workshops. The people are great, and that's what makes it. I mean, you can, as I said, you can go over there and play out of your head and still not get a prize, simply because there are so many good players.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
The competition is just,
yeah.
it's high level.
Yeah. So
it's off the scale.
It's a little bit of humble pie too, the first time you go over there and you see player after player after player come up and play at a high level. So it was a learning experience. And it made me, it motivated me. It made me want to work harder.
Yeah, I guess that would. I mean, the competition is a lot more fierce, and the pressure to up your game is just right there, because of everybody, because you see so many talented people there, and you have and there's a lot of work you have to do even to get to one certain level, but the work you got to do to compete at that level has got to, you got to be eating, sleeping, drinking it, I guess. Is that how it was for you?
Well, yeah, there was about 10 years there between about 1978 and 1980, 10 or 12 years where, yeah, I was practicing pretty hard. It was not unusual for me to spend 3 or 4 hours a day on my piping, whether it was playing pipes or playing chanter or playing exercises or listening to recordings I'd made and critiquing them. One thing I've learned in piping, and I think it applies to most musical instruments, is the best players I know were not necessarily the most talented people. They were the people who worked the hardest.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, to play at that level, you have to have work ethic. You can't get around that. I mean, you could be the most intelligent person there, but if you don't have the work ethic, you generally don't win.
Yeah, no, that's it exactly.
Absolutely. I'm in total agreement with you. So what would you say was your most significant memory in Scotland? What is the one moment that you can say was most profound for you?
Well, it's pretty hard to beat winning 2 gold medals in a clasp.
Of course.
It's a true. Yeah. I said, I think the clasp for me was the biggest one. But over the years, I had lots of profound experiences over there that didn't have anything to do with me competing. Visiting, making friends over there. And I still have so many good friends over there now. Going around the countryside and visiting piping sites or piping places of piping history. That's always been a great thrill for me as well. And of course, the absolute beauty of the country and the very, very kind people. It's a great place. I love it.
What would you say is your favorite site to go? Let's say you went to Scotland tomorrow, and let's say anybody who wants to go out to Scotland, what is the one place you say you got to be there? What is that one place for you?
I would say Skye, the Isle of Skye. It's a beautiful, rugged, windswept place, and it's in so many ways the home of piping. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's rugged. It's natural. Everyone should go to Skye.
Are they still using Skye to pick up the granite to make curling rocks these days?
I don't know. I know that I think the granite for curling rocks all comes from one place. But I don't know more than that.
Okay. All right. Well, anybody who goes out to Scotland, yeah, go to the Isle of Skye if you ever get a chance. So let's go to now. You are now the director of education for piping and drumming at St. Andrews College. How did that come about?
Well, actually, I'm semi-retired now.
Okay.
I joined the school in 1998. The school has a cadet. St. Andrews College is a what we call an independent school. So we're sort of like a private school, except we're not for profit. So any profit the school makes goes back into the school. There's been a cadet corps here since 1906, and there's been a pipe band here since 1916. And around the late 90s, they decided they wanted to sort of upgrade the cadet program, and that included the pipe band. And I happened to be in the right place at the right time, and essentially got the job. So I did that until around 2019 or 20. Now right. Matt McIsaac is here now, and Matt runs the program, and I'm working part-time, so it's great. Someone else is making all of the decisions, and I still get to teach and be involved in the program. I like the direction my life is taking.
So basically, you get to stand back now.
Yeah.
So
and my business has gotten a little busier in the last few years as well. So I'm enjoying the time to put into that.
And what do you sell?
I sell bagpipe supplies. I sell vintage instruments. I sell new instruments. I sell chanters. I sell tutors, piping supplies. I have a website called pipetunes.ca, from which people can download pieces of sheet music. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts of my business.
Interesting. And you are now the chair of the music committee at the Pipers and Pipe Band Society of Ontario.
Yeah, that's correct. I took on that job, I think, about 2.5 years ago. This was my 3rd year at it. So yeah, Michael Gray, when he was elected president, he asked if I would take the job, and I said, yeah, I'd love to. So we've been working together, and again, it's great to have the kind of leadership at the top that we have right now. It's I think lots of good things are happening, and it's motivating.
Okay. So for some people who are not familiar with the way it works, could you please describe what the music committee does?
Yeah, we're concerned primarily with competition. So we maintain all of our judging panel. We hold a judges seminar every year, which is actually this Saturday for all of our judges. We certify judges, so we have a training and assessment program that prospective judges go through before they're certified. The annual seminar. If there are questions about competitions like, tune requirements, we look into that. Upgrades, we monitor all the results at the games for the year, and then do mandatory upgrades for people who do exceptionally well. And then during the course of the year, we also do, people can request an upgrade as well, and we review all those and determine a result.
Mhm.
That's the kind of thing that we do. And we may be asked to do special projects periodically by the president or the executive board. Um, but yeah, if it has something to do with competition at the games, then the music committee will have had its hands on it.
So, what role do you play in the classification of bands and players?
How do you mean?
Well,
In grading?
yes, in grading.
Okay. Um, we very rarely have to grade a pipe band. So all of our grading duties are solo players. So
Okay.
a solo player downloads an upgrade form from the PPBSO website, fills it
Right.
out, sends in a couple of videos of their playing, and we have a grading committee that's part of the music committee, and we sit and we go over the videos and go over their application form and
Right.
make sure that an upgrade is the best thing for them.
Right. You simply want to make sure that one, they're qualified to be where they are, where they're asking to be, and two, that maybe the competition, if the person were to stay, the competition wouldn't be challenging enough for that person.
Yeah, yeah, yes, and of course we want to keep the grades distinctive. Um, we want people who are in the grade to fall within, a qualitative range of
Hmm.
playing. So yeah, I mean, we have to do a little bit of that too. So sometimes, once in a while we'll get someone who wants an upgrade, um, and we just don't feel that their level of play or their experience quite warrants it. And hopefully they'll do well in their current grade over the next summer.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. And is there any other work that the music committee does um, for the
We used
association?
to we used to be a little bit more involved in education, um,
Okay.
but the Michael Gray started an education committee um, that we gave some of our music committee members over to, but they're
Okay.
dealing with education now, which is a good thing because the music committee bailiwick is pretty demanding and every year, and it can be hard for us to take on additional projects and get things like the judges seminar and all the other stuff we have done.
And how closely are you following the circuit this year?
Myself,
Yes, you.
well, I'll be playing on it. I'll be playing in a grade two band here. So yeah, I keep an eye on the prize. When you're involved in grading people and moving people around and upgrades and whatnot, yeah, you look at the prize list and say, oh yeah, well, good, we did the right thing with him, or oh, well, yeah, I guess maybe we should have moved him up. I don't know. Yeah, I follow the list.
So, from your perspective, what can we expect this summer on the Ontario circuit?
Um, a bit of the same that happens every year. I mean, that's kind of the whole idea is to run our competitions. A couple of new
Right.
things. One new thing we'll be trying that we actually tried a few years ago was, and I think you had it in your news, was the come and try, where we'll have a booth with practice chanters and a set of pipes and a practice pad and some sticks, and people will be able to come up and actually give the practice chanter a try, and at least be able to look up close at a set of pipes and see how it works. We did this a few years ago, and it was quite popular. So I think it's happening. I can't remember how many games they're doing it at. They're not doing it at every games,
Yes, they're
but
doing Georgetown, Cambridge, um, Maxville,
yeah,
Fergus, and there's a fifth one because there's only 5 events there. But are they doing Coburg?
I'm not sure.
Well, I know at least 4 of them.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, that's something different. We're trying to branch out into not just running competitions, but helping to create pipers and drummers.
And if there's one thing we need, it's more pipers and drummers.
Yes, we do.
What would you say is the biggest challenge in getting a piper and drummer want to get involved?
Well, that's the $64,000 question. I think if we knew that, we'd have lots of pipers and drummers. The bottom line here is, when I was a kid growing up in Ontario and going to the Highland Games, you heard a lot of Scottish accents at the Highland Games.
Yes,
Lots.
you did.
Half the people there were Scots. And as the years and decades have gone by, that influx of Scottish people that occurred for 150 years dropped off. And we don't have sort of a ready-made Scottish culture coming over here to bring their pipes or happily learn their pipes here. And we're to the point now where we need to make our own players. And
yes,
that's a challenge. It is a challenge. And there are so many competing things in kids' lives these days, not the least of which are electronics.
Yes.
That prevent, when you teach kids now, you almost have to fast track them to keep them interested and get them onto pipes as soon as you can, because they don't have the patience that maybe we did 50 years ago when there wasn't much else to do.
Yeah. I mean, there's a strong level of attention to detail required in piping. I mean, my son, he's been doing this for over 10 years now, and he still has to keep it going. He practices a lot. He works his rudiments as well, the grips, the twirloos. I mean, there's all kinds of technique involved, and it requires a high level of detail that some kids just don't have the patience to see it through.
Yeah, it's not an instrument that suits everybody. We see it here at the school. Lots of kids. You get some kids who take to it like a fish to water. They just go, and other ones, it's their hands don't seem to fit the chanter and things go wrong, and well, it's not the instrument for you, and that's okay. I think the attrition rate in piping is probably over 70%. I'd be surprised if 3 out of every 10 pipers we start actually make it to pipes.
That is a challenge in itself, indeed.
Yeah.
Is drumming any better?
The drumming is in a little worse state than the piping. We seem to have fewer drummers than pipers. So the answer is no, it's not any better.
And once again, lots of detail goes into drumming, especially snare drumming. All the work that needs to be done in all, knowing all the rudiments, knowing how to put it all together. I mean, I'm a drummer, so I kind of know these things. And it's not just that. I mean, it's one thing to bang a bass drum. It's another thing to get tones out of the drum. It's not it. So there's still lots of technique that goes into any kind of drumming. But do the kids have the patience to want to do that? Do they have, or do they even have the tenacity to say, I can do this? Let's get to it. Okay, I didn't get it right. Okay, I'm going to try it again. I didn't get it. Okay, I'm going to try it again and again until I get this right. But it's still back to that whole we're sort of in that age of what it's that. Oh man, now I'm blank. uh, we're in that age of getting things right when we want them, and it's ruining us to an extent here.
Well, I don't know if it's ruining us. It's certainly making life different. And I think we have to teach kids a little differently from how we have in the past, where, where a kid could be a year and a half before he gets on pipes. I was a year before I got on pipes. But, so much depends on the motivation of the student. And to some extent, the instructor is to some extent responsible for that motivation, but it's got to come. There has to be a passion for it. If there's no it's too difficult an instrument to learn to play if you don't have a passion for it.
Definitely. You have to have the passion to do it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I mean, and you also have the tenacity to want to get better at it. I mean, once again, work ethic. It's always that challenge to instill the proper work ethic in our kids, to be able to have the patience, to have the tenacity to want to get better at it.
Yeah, I agree.
So, where do you see things going from now? As far as, obviously, we have that challenge. What other challenges do you see on the horizon, in your opinion?
Well, they all fall from that one. That's the biggest one. That's the one we're addressing right now. Making sure we have games on an ongoing basis. So, those relationships are strong. I don't think I know that Michael Gray is doing and Sharon Duthard are doing a great job in negotiating with the game. So that side of things is going well. So really it's all about the numbers.
Right. And making sure you have a strong relationship with the organizers, for sure.
Yeah.
You have to have that relationship. You have to have, everybody has to be on board on that. And without the organizers, we don't have these games. And that's what it comes down to. So definitely I think we need to do more to recognize these people and what they do for us. Because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be doing this in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, the games are our lifeblood. And we have very little control over whether they come or go.
Indeed. Well, I think that pretty much sums up our topic here.
Yeah. Well, this has been a great chat, Rene.
It has, Jim. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's an honor to have you on, as a matter of fact. I mean,
thank you,
when I played with Guelph and Spirit of Ontario last year, I saw you out there emceeing the 100th anniversary concert, and I never got the chance to meet you. And definitely, if I ever see you out there, I'll be out there shaking your hand, buddy.
Yeah, do that for sure.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you're very welcome.
We'll talk again later.
Okay, cheers.
That was Jim McGillivray, the chair of the music committee at the Pipers and Pipe Band Society of Ontario. And when I come back, I'm going to give you my final thoughts. Once again, thanks to Jim McGillivray for appearing on the show. I am working on lining up my next guest next week, and once I have that locked in, I will definitely let you in on that. But for now, let's go to my topic. So you want to be a drum major? Well, let me begin by telling you, if you're young, your best training ground is in cadets. The very first thing you need to know is drill, dress, deportment, and most importantly, how to march. Because you are supposed to be the best marcher in your band. You are supposed to be the best dressed in your band, and you are supposed to be the most knowledgeable on drill. Case in point, part of my job as the drum major of the Guelph Pipe Band is to be the drill instructor of the band. I watch how my bands march in the circle. I watch how they march out. I observe their movements and suggest adjustments so they are better prepared to go into that circle and play, reducing their need to divert their attention from their playing, getting them focused on playing and making all the movements like second nature is most important. Besides, how you go in and how you leave, that counts. It does. The pipe major is the music instructor, and the drum major is the instructor in dress and deportment. But that's just part of it. The drum major in a competition band needs a little showmanship in mace flourishes and can do it without losing step. It takes just as much practice as it would take in learning a new instrument, because in a sense, the mace is a new instrument, and the mace drills have to be in time and at a certain rhythm as if you were carrying a rifle. That's why it is important to know your drill before you even get into it. The majority of drum majors out there were in the military. So it does become second nature, because just like drill, those movements go at a certain time, and doing it off step can throw you off. And that's where you learn your very first lesson. When you are out front, every mistake you make can be amplified, because there is no one beside you. There is no one in front of you. They're all behind you, and there's no one to tell you that you goofed, even when you know you did. So if you want the job, get ready to fall flat in your face from time to time and learn to adjust to your mistakes quickly without anyone knowing. When I played with my bands, when I practice with them, I always practice recovering from mistakes, because mistakes will be made. And the first thing you want to do is adjust without throwing everyone else off. The only difference is when you're playing in a band, you can smile and get back on the horse. You can't do that when you're a drum major. You try not to crack a smile. You act as if it never happened. Your head needs to be in a completely different zone. And of course, you need to get yourself a mace. The only problem is that there are maces that can be very expensive, especially where the craft is in making them is impeccable. Current drum majors, all you current drum majors, better cover your ears when I say this. Are they covered? Good. My first tip is to buy one for Pakistan. Hey, I told you to cover your ears when I say this. While the budget of the Department of National Defenses everywhere have the money to pay well over $1,000 for a good mace. Us independents don't have that luxury, so we have to work from a budget. When you're getting your starter mace, get one that comes in 3 parts. Like this one I have here. As you can see, the chain on this kind of stripped away a lot of the paint on the shaft. It did a real number on this, to the point that I had to replace this. And this is why you get one that comes with a 3-piece setup. The head I have on this, well, here, let me show you. This is a one I like to beat up. And this is a one and this is one of the maces I practice with. So the head on this is a bit different from this because I bought an extra one that I can beat up. And so while I'm practicing, if I drop this thing, I'm not too concerned about it. And if you'd see, it's got a nice dent right there. So yes, you know, if you are going to practice with a mace, get one with a head that you can beat up. Buy an extra head. So get one with a nice head on it right here. But make sure you keep an extra, just so when you practice with this, you're not too worried about beating up the other one. And yes, I've had this mace for 4 years, and it has taken a beating. So rather than replace the whole mace, I can replace the whole point to getting a 3-piece. Get one in 3 pieces is that I can just replace the parts I need rather than going around buying a brand new one. It doesn't make good economic sense to just simply buy a brand new mace when you already have the parts you need. So what I did was I got a new shaft with a brand new ferrule. And another tip here is when you get one, make sure that there's a rubber on the ferrule. So this is called the ferrule. This is the shaft. This is the head, and the top here is called the fennerel. So yes, because I already have this nice looking head, all I needed to do was get a new shaft and a new ferrule and then put it all together. And it looks as good as new. So this one is the one I use now for parades, and it looks really good. What can I say? Now, the drawback to having this kind of a mace is that it's a lot heavier than the ones my military buddies have. That's why after updating my ceremonial mace, eventually I needed to buy one that I could use for competition. This is called the Amazing Mace. It's made in the US, and for less than $300, you can have one of your own. I'll present a review of this product on this channel soon. But don't buy this until you've got your first mace and you got your backup parts, because these may cost less than having a set of bagpipes, but money is still money. The other thing is to learn how to take care of your mace as well. This is just another tool in your arsenal, and you need to learn to take good care of your tools. Get to know your mace, get to know what you can do, get to know what you can't do. And if you're going to get gloves that will allow you to grip. Now, I didn't bring that pair with me here, but if you go to Amazon, look for white cotton gloves with grip beads. This is generally used by color parties and any of even trumpet players. You need something with that extra grip, especially in the cold temperatures, especially with the winters we have here in Canada. And before you start thinking of these, think of marching first. Don't forget to march. Now, I made a promise to the person who taught me to be a drum major, Kieran Boyle. He asked me to pass this knowledge on to others at the same price he charged me. Nothing. At some point, I will be passing this knowledge in the hopes that someone out there who has the charisma and the showmanship needed to be that peacock. But I still have a lot to learn, even if I am almost in my mid-50s. And my journey as a drum major is far from over. Well, if you like this show, say so by pounding that like button. And if you like this channel, please subscribe. The more of you that subscribe, the easier it will be to do these shows and more. And if you have any suggestions on shows you would like to see, put in the comments section below. And yes, eventually I will present a product review of the Amazing Mace. I think it is a terrific mace for beginners and for people who are on a budget, most importantly, because really, in the worst of times, maces can be expensive. So yes, I will present a product review on the Amazing Mace for sure. And then maybe at some point I'll be able to line up some pipers to review piping equipment, drummers to review drumming equipment. Who knows? Anyways, as always, thank you all for watching. I'm Rene Goche. Bye for now.